Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. It is Tuesday, all you minties, so that means it is time to take an advanced look at all these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's go ahead and get started. Before going on further, I do want to say a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. All these collected editions are due out on August 27th or 28th, depending on where you get your books. And there's also the Invincible Iron Man Omnibus Volume 3, which I've already done an overview of last week. Today we're mainly focusing on the trade paperbacks or epic collections. Sometimes there's masterworks, or sometimes there's deluxe oversized hardcovers. Sometimes. As always, I like to leave timestamps in the description of the video in case you're only wondering about one or two particular titles. But we do have a couple of epics, no reprints this time around, some brand new ones that I know are going to make people really happy. The ending of an era in this particular collection, a possible future storyline, and some new series and mini-series that Marvel has been putting out. And before I go any further, a small reminder to smash that like button, please. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. I know, you're probably wondering, why does he keep reminding us? Believe me, it means a lot to us. And a big thank you to all of you that have already done it and have shared our videos and have left comments. Alright, let's go ahead and I didn't even think about this. Which one? Let's go ahead and talk about Spider-Gwen Smash. Spider-Gwen Smash. Love that David Nakayama cover. And here's the back of the book. And this particular book is collecting Spider-Gwen Smash. It does take place after the events of Spider-Gwen Gwenverse. It is not collected in any of the Omnis, neither volumes 1 and 2. Melissa Flores is writing these stories with Enid Balam and Alba Glass doing the artwork in here. The color is Fer Cifuentes Sujo. And then the inker Elizabeth D'Amico. And then the lettering by Clayton Cowles and Ariana Mayer. And again, taking place after the events of the Gwenomverse. So by now, just a little bit of spoilers, I guess, if you haven't previously read Spider-Gwen. It's been coming out in Modern Epic Collections. It's been released in 2 Omnis. And everyone during this time knows the identity of Gwen Stacy in this Earth. So we are talking about Earth 65, where she's here with her friends right here, like Glory Grant and Betty Brant, and then MJ Watson. She is part of a band, but everybody knows that Gwen Stacy in this universe, Earth 65, is Ghost Spider. And Ghost Spider is a hero that travels back between the Earth 616, our universe, or the universe that Peter Parker has belonged to since 1962, and this universe, Earth 65, with her dad still alive, and of course Gwen is still alive. Now comes the time where she has to find balance in being a superhero and being part of this band. As a matter of fact, MJ has kind of approached her a couple times, and she's like, this band and you all mean so much to me, I can't leave it. So during the story, they are approached by Dazzler and the Uncut Gems. And this particular version of Dazzler is a little bit different than the version from the 616 universe, as are these characters. Because that's the thing about the multiverse. You're always going to get different versions of characters from the faces you're familiar with and, the way they act. Lila Cheney, Dazzler, Natasha, you're not given who she really is, but she's just a manager with no powers, and Rick Jones, of all people, are part of this band. Natasha's just a manager, but with that little necklace, you're hinted really, really in your face that she's probably Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, in the 616 universe. So they are here to open up for Dazzler and the Uncut Gems. As a matter of fact, MJ gets to go out there and play with them, and they're huge in this universe. But what happens? They are attacked by this big giant green creature that looks a lot like the Hulk, mixed with like a giant ape or the Beast. And of course, since people know that Gwen Stacy is Ghost Spider, she puts on the costume and goes out there and fights. This becomes a little bit of a conflict with the band, and Then you find out exactly maybe why Dazzler and her team decided to go and ask the Mary Janes to come and open up for them. So there is somebody that's working behind the scenes, and there is a reason why he's trying to capture some of these particular kids and what he's trying to awaken in them. There are appearances in here. I kind of want to show you a little bit of this. Again, David Nakayama supplying the covers. There is a huge fight that happens between Ghost Spider and this Carnage. And this Carnage is a little bit different than the Carnage that you saw her fight previously. This is the first round with Carnage, but it is a different Carnage. Now, in the back here, there's not that many because some of the variant covers are collected in between issues. But we do have some variant covers in thumbnail size right there. 128 pages collecting the 4-issue series, and then the giant size finale here, which is the big fight against Carnage, and retailing for $17.99. Wolverine by Benjamin Percy, Volume 9, Sabretooth War Part 2. And if you haven't read Part 1 or any of Wolverine by Benjamin Percy, spoilers going into this, because this is the finale of Wolverine during the Krakoa era. This collects issues 46 through 50, and it has 176 pages. This one retails for $24.99. Here, the creators. You do have Victor Lavalle coming in and co-writing some of these stories with Benjamin Percy, Corey Smith supplying the pencils with Jeff Shaw, Oren Jr. and Jeff Shaw, and then Alex Sinclair, Corey Petit doing the lettering. There are other surprises that come in here, especially in issue number 50, to celebrate 50 issues of this particular Wolverine. I mean, it's an anniversary issue. So by this point, the Saber Teeth, or the Sabretooth army from the multiverse, has come and pretty much wreaked havoc on Wolverine's life, hurting and killing some of his friends and family, and they are not stopping. Again, this is taking place during the events of Fall of X. It is interesting because I just also this week, well, I guess last week, I read Fall of X and Rise of Powers of X. And it was interesting to see how this is read compared to that, because it feels like this is a completely different story that doesn't really lead into that, because that Wolverine is doing something else. Anyway, talking about the reading order of these books when I get to it, when it's all said and done, is going to be a task. Yeah, Weapon X. They're back into that flashback because Wolverine is being taken control by Victor Creed. Victor Creed is controlling him and pretty much manipulating him to use him as a weapon. Now you do have his son, Graydon Creed, who's out here and also causing havoc among the rest of the remaining members of the Exiles that were Sabretooth's old team. He's looking a little bit different. And yes, that cover does ruin something, because when Wolverine is depowered and when he is dying, Forge leaves him one more present, and that is, of course, the adamantium armor. So that's what happens in here. He gets to fight Sabretooth for the last time with adamantium armor. There's a couple of nice surprises as to who comes in and gets to guess right the 50th issue, as well as drawing it. And I don't want to spoil exactly who that is, so I will let you find out by yourself. Let's look at the extras here in the back, because this is where you're going to find the covers and the variant covers. A lot of these in splash pages, and then some of these adamantium armor is so ridiculous, but I love it for some reason. Actually, no, I don't think they have any thumbnails. Okay. 176 pages and retailing for $24.99. I know I kind of skimmed through this one fast, but when I'm talking about the ending of something, I don't want to spoil what exactly is happening, who lives, who dies. And I will say, like I said, if you are reading the Fallen, or the trade paperback, the Fall and Rise Powers of X, read this one first, because it won't make sense to read that one and then come back to this one to wrap up this era. Here we have Blade, Volume 2, Evil Against Evil. And if you haven't read Volume 1 of Brian Hill's Blade, I strongly suggest checking that out before reading this. So I guess some minor spoilers going into this. So this is all written by Brian Hill. You have Lee Ferguson, Valentina Pinti, and then Ella Casagrande coming back for issues 8 and 10. KG Diaz doing the colors, and then Corey Petit doing the lettering. So Blade is now teaming up with Dracula, his own sworn enemy. Because, this is during the time when Blade was the sheriff of the Vampire Nation, and he's going to need some help. Because he needs to figure out a way how to defeat Adana, who has been raised from the dead, and he blames himself because, well, it kind of is his fault. He didn't know he was being manipulated and used. So now Adana is coming back, and he needs to figure out a way to confront her. So he is getting trained by Dracula, and becomes really, well, it goes in ways I didn't expect it to go. Because Dracula offers him his blood. He wants to awaken things in Blade, and he swears to Blade it won't change who he is or anything. It will just help him awaken his true potential. Does Blade drink the blood of Dracula or not? Well, you can find that out for yourself. One of the big training things that he has to go through is getting help from the Incredible Hulk. So the Incredible Hulk, especially during this recent run, Philip Kennedy Johnson's run, is this man living with this monster inside of him, and the man is trying to break out, and so is the monster. So this is something that Blade needs help with, how to control this demon that is living inside of him, how to find this perfect balance. So together, both of them, first of all, team up to go demon hunting, and eventually he gets his lesson. So this is collecting issues 6 through 10 of Blade from 2023. The book has 112 pages and retails for $15.99. Now, he doesn't only get the help of course, Tulip and Rotha. He also seeks out other people. I like this design of Satana here, or Satana. And there's Tulip and Rotha, who we last saw in Japan. And now they're back in this particular story to go and help Blade fight against Adana once and for all. So that's what this particular story is about. And then in the back, we do get some variant covers, not a lot. There's the Bloodline Daughter of Blade, and most of these, of course, in thumbnail size. And note that does not happen in this book. And that is Blade, Volume 2, Evil Against Evil. Vengeance of Moon Knight, Volume 1, New Moon. So this is the new series by Jed MacKay. It's still Alessandro Cappuccio doing some of the artwork. This cover here is by David Finch. And this collects Vengeance of Moon Knight 1 through 4. Immediately after Moon Knight by Jed MacKay is when this takes place. Now, the big thing is, if you haven't read that, by the way, Alessandro Cappuccio doing the art, Rochelle Rosenberg doing some of the color assist, and then she's doing all the colors. Corey Petit doing the lettering. If you haven't read that run, I strongly suggest reading it even before I start talking about this, because I have to talk about the mission and what exactly is going on with Mark Spector and who... Okay, just in case, minor spoilers. Alright, so let's go on here. So this starts off with Reese sitting on the Dr. Sturman's therapist's couch, just like Mark Spector used to. This is after the events of the previous volume with Jed MacKay kind of ending the run of Mark Spector. So Jake Lockley, all those guys, gone. And you can find out by reading that series. I don't want to spoil what happens. They do believe him to be gone, and gone maybe this time, even though Mark Spector has come back from the dead in the past. So who is left to run this mission? So you have Tigra left, you've got Reese, who's this vampire that appeared during that run, Soldier, and you have Hunter's Moon, and then you've got 8-Ball. So they still want to run the Midnight Mission without Mark Spector. However, as you find out through the therapy session, there is a new Moon Knight that is out there. And they don't think that it's Mark Spector Moon Knight. Now, this is, of course, Hunter's Moon, who you would think would take the mantle of Moon Knight and become the new Moon Knight. No, there is another Moon Knight out there. And he's a lot more violent than the previous Moon Knight. He beats villains down. He doesn't trust that 8-Ball is going to stay good. He thinks that he's just manipulating everybody at the Midnight Mission. As a matter of fact, he doesn't care for the people in the Midnight Mission. And this is what his design looks like. So here's the David Finch cover. But I really dig these designs. The identity of who this Moon Knight is will be revealed in issue number 4, so at the end of this trade paperback. And if you're anything like me, I want it more, because the identity reveal I did not see coming. There were a couple of hints that I should have seen, but once it comes out, I'm like, oh, of course. Oh, that's so good. Each issue, so there's 4 issues collected in here. Again, 112 pages, $15.99. Somebody is going to be sitting there on the therapist chair telling their side of things. And that's how you find out about this character and what exactly his role is in this new world. I love when Soldier is sitting there because you learn a little bit more about him. Jen McKay still firing on all cylinders and pumping out these awesome stories. In the back, we do get some variant covers. So here we go. Variant covers, including the new Moon Knight design. I'm going to skip any if they spoil anything in here, believe me. I don't want to spoil, especially the identity of the new Moon Knight. Or is it Mark Spector or Jake Lockley? Maybe. Okay. So there we go. This almost got my seal of approval. Very, very, very close. Avengers Twilight. Avenge the Future. Or this is just called Avengers Twilight. That's just what it says there. And this particular book collects Avengers Twilight 1 through 6, and it retails for $24.99. Written by Chip Zdarsky. Daniel Acuña's art looking so good in this particular book. Corey Petit and Joe Carabagna doing the lettering. The cover art is supplied, the main covers that is, by Alex Ross. This is set in a possible future, and it is a future after something horrible has happened to our heroes, our Avengers. There was something that was called the H-Day. H-Day had happened, and you're led to believe that, oh, it was the day of reckoning for the heroes. So H-Day happened, and our heroes lost the faith of the people and the government, and people turned on them. And some of them died. There's a series of flashbacks here, all told through the perspective of old man Steve Rogers, Captain America. So, one of the biggest opponents in here is this character named Jonathan, and it's Jonathan Stark. Whether he's being manipulated or not, you can find out for yourself. But he is Tony Stark's son. And, you know, he is accusing these leftover heroes of just being awful people, evil people, and wants them completely gone off the face of the planet. Through a series of flashbacks, you get to see who's made it and who hasn't made it. Who Steve Rogers' wife is, and does she agree with him becoming Captain America again? That's the thing, he hasn't been Captain America for a while, until he meets a group of young heroes calling themselves the Defenders, and asking him if he would like to join the cause, because there is somebody else. Now, Jonathan was raised by Jarvis's brother, and you can find out for yourself where exactly that leads. Why was he raised to be this kind of bratty character? So, Steve Rogers agrees to take the super soldier serum to help out these kids. But instead of joining their cause, joining the Avengers, I love this image right here. He decides that he's going to pretty much recruit a new team of Avengers to go and avenge the previous team. And in here, you're going to see some familiar faces. You're going to see who turns them down. Honestly, the Astonishing Melanie did such a great job giving you the pitch of the story. So I'll link that video up above if you want to go and check out what she had to say about this. I will add that the artwork in here by Acuña, this painted style that he's had over the years, you know, ever since I remember seeing his work at DC with like the Uncle Sam stories, or later on he did some Flash books. But his style has just developed into something amazing. I'm digging the way that it looks, the dark colors that he's using for here, but still using the poppy colors, like these. Let me just show you like what the future looks like. There's this documentary that's going around that paints the Red Skull a little bit different. You like these colors right here, very vibrant, very poppy. That said that he wasn't as evil as some people made him out to be. What the hell? Anyway, so we got to put a stop to that and gather a bunch of Avengers to assemble. In the back is where you're going to find the variant covers. Some of them by Daniel Acuña and others by different creators through here. Some of them in thumbnail size and some of them in full splash pages. And then character designs all the way in the back. And this book, again, 208 pages and retailing for $24.99. And we've come to that part of the video where I remind you to smash that like button, please. But actually, the part of the video where I talk about the spines, or I just show you the spines. Really, there is no talking here. But yeah, these are all uniform, with the exception of something like a miniseries like Avengers Twilight that kind of stands out. Well, when you're talking about a possible future, you want it to stand out. Alright, let's continue with this overview. Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of X is next. This book wraps up the era of the Krakoa time the X-Men have had. And it's weird how fast time just goes by. Feels just like yesterday that they had kicked off the series. This book does collect the Fall of the House of X 1 through 5, Rise of the Powers of X 1 through 5, and the material from X-Men, the 2021 series, number 35. The book has 392 pages and retails for $50. It is a trade paperback. There is no hardcover of this. As a matter of fact, I think the last hardcover they did of the Krakoa era, outside of Wolverine and X-Force Volumes 4, is the Sins of Sinister. I'm really surprised they didn't do one for this. Jerry Duggan and then Kieran Gillen writing the majority of the story, but then you have some other writers coming in for the final issue in issue 35. Al Ewing coming in to help out there. Lucas Wernick and Jethro Morales, R.B. Silva, and Luciano Vicchio doing the art for the two main stories. All these different artists working on issue 35. And then you have coloring by David Curiel and Brian Valenza, lettering by Travis Lanham and Clayton Cowles. If you have not read any of Krakoa, skip to the next book, because I have to talk about some spoilers that have happened recently. But, I mean, if you're here watching this and you haven't read any of it and you don't care, all right, let's have some fun. So it starts off with the trial of Cyclops. He's daydreaming about being drug out in the West, about to be hung. And it's because people are blaming him for things that mutant kind have been found guilty of, all because of the attack of Orcus that has left them really crippled. Like, the mutant kind has been crippled because of this attack in the last Hellfire Gala. And not only wiping them out, but also putting the blame on the deaths of humans. Because during this time, Krakoa was selling, or rather trading Krakoan medicine to make people's lives better. However, Orcus had figured it out and implanted a kill switch on these particular medications, killing or driving some of these people mad. And the mutants are the ones that they found guilty. So they send a new team to go out there to go and rescue him. I love this flashback right here of Colossus and Wolverine doing the fastball special and the narrative talking about the history of the fastball special. So when they're together again, they were like, okay, we need to rename this particular trick. Because now this time around, Colossus is throwing an opponent to Wolverine and Wolverine slicing and dicing them. So they're like, oh, how about the screwball special? I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of the simpler times because it's about to get confusing. And I'm going to do my best without going into spoilers of this particular book to talk about it because, oh my gosh, it gets confusing because we're talking about multiple timelines. We're talking about the revamp of some era. And we're talking about so many different characters and characters existing in multiple timelines. Woo! Jonathan Hickman really put the foundation for this story out there. And both Jerry Duggan and Kieran Gillen had so much to pick up on. And they had their work cut out for them. So the basic premise is that, yes, mutants are found guilty. A lot of the mutants have left Earth because that is the law from Orcus. They must leave. They don't care about mutants being here. They're being hunted down by Tony Stark's Sentinels, of course against his will. And the remaining mutants here are trying to help Cyclops break out. I do love Shadow Tiger's codename Kitty. Kate Pryde becomes Shadow Tiger, which is the evolution to me of Shadow Cat. I love that about this particular, and there she is right there. So we do have different teams here, and this is from a different era, where we have Captain Krakoa, and another character, not quite the Captain Krakoa you're used to here. And this is setting these characters up to do one particular mission while the other characters from the Now timeline are trying to break out Cyclops and trying to free their friend and also clear their name of anything that they've been found guilty of by any means necessary. At first, it's confusing because both timelines are working at the same time. They're running at the same time. Professor X is kind of caught in the middle of both stories, but then again, when you have Professor X in the story, you also have to have Moira McTaggart. And how do you fix this? I think at heart, there's a lot of Hickman in here. Just the complexity of the story. And with so many characters that were specially reintroduced through the pages of Krakoa, it was a task. And for the most part, I think it delivered. I'm not going to lie. It is confusing as hell. Especially when you're reading other stories like the Sabretooth War. You're trying to put it into a proper reading order. And there are some traits that still haven't come out that wrap up some series. So I wonder how those will be read. So I kind of wish they had left this towards the last book to be collected of the Krakoa era. But I get it. You needed to get it out. People have been impatient. And not everybody is reading every single X title. So it does wrap up. I will say that. And it does have something to do with events. And it does have something to do with time travel. It has something to do with multiverses. And, of course, just the hope that lies in X-Men. A lot of throwback lines here to the House and Powers of X. Those were really nice touches. I'm not going to go and explain exactly what happened. Apocalypse plays a big part, surprisingly, in issue number 35. Oh, there was a little night. I'm not going to even show you a single page of that, just because I want people to be genuinely surprised. There's a nice Chris Claremont and Salvador La Roca story that features Nightcrawler. But you do get to see the ending of Krakoa come, though. And whether you love the era or not, it's just what's happening, and that is the finale of the Krakoa saga, for now. Until they bring it back, because it's X-Men. There are always loopholes to bring these things back. And we have covers back here, variant covers back here. I'm going to go back to the story here in a second just to say something. Lots and lots of variant covers. Some of them in splash pages, spread pages. Those are beautiful right there by David Nakayama. And then some of them in thumbnail size. This book has 392 pages. Again, retailing for $50. This particular book, to me, is X-Men. It's why I love X-Men. Because I'm so used to getting headaches, so used to trying to figure out timelines, so used to figuring out who's important, who isn't, who's going to betray who's going to be the big key player. Everything that I love about X-Men, I found in this book. And I don't know how anybody else feels. I don't keep up with the internet. I don't social media. So I don't know if people love it or hate it. But to me, this got my seal of approval. This was my favorite read this week. And it went up against some really solid reads. Like, that Avengers Twilight was awesome. The Vengeance of Moon Knight was phenomenal. But this was X-Men. And I don't just pick X-Men titles if you're just new to the channel and you're like, of course you're going to pick this. You're the Uncanny Omar. No, that's not true at all. I have picked other titles instead of X-Men. Like, when people are like, how in the world did you pick that instead of X-Men? I don't know. Sometimes it's just, it hits me right. And this hit me right. It was the things that I loved about X-Men, and a huge task, but a task that these wonderful writers were able to tackle. Yeah. Wish it had been a hardcover, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll get proper collections of these stories in a wonderful reading order, but just in oversized format. But that is Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of X. And man, did they rise. Namor, the Submariner Epic Collection Volume 4. This is where it gets a little confusing because this is called Titans 3. But there's a reason for that. This, I had not read about 95% of the stories in here I hadn't read. I did read this one here with Trigon and Stingray. Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway, Alan Brodsky, Sal Buscema, Gene Colan, Ross Andrew, Mike Esposito, Jim Mooney, Bernie Wrightson. I forgot he did like some of the inking in one of these issues. Sam Rosen and Art Simek, just to name a few of the wonderful creators of this era. This era coming in at the early 70s, so this is 1970 to 1972, and collecting Submariner 28 through 49, as well as Daredevil 77, and the material from Kazar number 1. And the book has 512 pages and retails for $49.99. So, we start off, by the way, I do love the fact that no matter what, Namor always calls Diane by her full name, Diane Arliss. So he is hanging out with her, and eventually they're approached. He wants to keep his identity a secret, and they're attacked, and then we get to see him fight this giant metal shovel. Yep, the steam shovel. That's it. Brudivac. That's that issue. Not the strongest start, but that's okay. Some killer artwork in here. The Kazar story that is in here is the last 10 pages of Kazar that introduces us to this character known as the Huntsman that will pit Hercules against Namor, and then Huntsman getting caught in the middle of that particular fight. There's also a Kree soldier that shows up in this story. We get Rick Jones, but not just Rick Jones. Captain Marvel shows up in here. And, of course, there's a huge fight that happens because heroes back then just didn't talk to each other. Oh, this actually has one of my favorite beginnings right here. This is where we have a particular new villain in here, but I wanted to talk about this introduction right here, where Ben is just sitting there watching reruns of Laugh-In and telling Triton to just join him on the couch, and Triton's like, no, I think I'm gonna go and fight the Submariner instead. I don't know why I found that funny. Just having the thing sit there and watch reruns of Laugh-In, I found that particularly funny. All right, but this is the fight against Stingray and Triton, and there's a character that gets introduced through these pages that will become important later on. Just a little cameo, but she'll get a full appearance in the next issue, and that is Lyra right here. So Lyra is a lot like Namor, and she actually is a very complicated character, and a lot of it has to do with her mom. This lady really needs a therapist, just because of the little bit of a twist that happens there. And this is issue, I believe this is the one where the people turn on Namor because of some decision that he made. Let me see, just to make sure, because we also had the return of Atuma through these pages. Yeah, so issue number 33 here. Yeah, this is where they do end up turning on him and start calling him a traitor because of previous things that have happened. We do have this. This is where the storyline Titans 3 comes in. And this serves as a precursor to the Defenders. And this is one of the ones that I had read in the past. But it's teaming up the Hulk and the Silver Surfer, calling themselves the Titans 3. And it leads into the next storyline where the Avengers really aren't happy with this, because this is during the era of Namor that he was more of a villain. Even though he's got characters like Baraha who have shown up through here, or Lyra. And we also get a particular will they, won't they, wedding day. Now, after the Titans 3 two-parter, there is the two-parter At Last, the Wedding of Submariner. So does he end up marrying Lady Dorma or not? And what could it mean? What could the Atlantean people benefit from both of them getting married? It's been a long time coming, and does he have true feelings for her? And that is a two-parter that has some, I think, wonderful art through here. We are about to see some artwork too by Gene Colan in a little bit. Now in issue 38, we do get a retelling of Namor's origin story. And again, it has a little bit of a throwback to the last two parters about the wedding. And that leaves us with the next issue, which is issue number 39. Right now, Namor is feeling guilty about something that happened in the previous two issues. You can find out what that is. Issue 77 of Daredevil, this is the one that I have read, is a crossover that also guest stars Spidey. And I really like both of these characters sharing, their loss, like both Karen Page and Gwen Stacy. And we get some stories in here from George Tuska. And this is the one that features Rock as one of the key players, or one of the villains throughout this particular issue. Issue number 43 has Gene Colan coming back to the book. Mike Esposito doing the inks right here. But I love Gene Colan. And this is the character of Tuval from the Black Sea people. Pretty much trying to control and manipulate Namor. We get Tiger Shark teaming up with Lyra. We get this fight against the Human Torch in issue number 44. And then 45, I think it's Mary Severin in here. And then Jim Mooney doing these particular issues. And again, superheroes fighting each other at first and then teaming up to defeat the true menace that is out there. And this is the fight against Stingray right here. And this leads into a Doctor Doom story, like Doctor Doom teaming up with Namor to go up against MODOK. And they're all searching for the Cosmic Cube. And this is Gene Colan doing some amazing artwork in here. I would love to see this in oversized format. Particularly the way that he draws Doctor Doom. Damn, he's such a good artist. Or I guess was a good artist. And this particular issue wraps up this omnibus right here. This is issue number 49 with the fight against MODOK, where Namor and Doctor Doom are teaming up to go up against MODOK and his minions. Okay, then we get the extras in the back, like this cover right here that reprints Tales to Astonish. We get some pinups here from Bill Everett, of course the creator of Namor. Some annual number 2 right here, reprinting some more Tales to Astonish. House ads, and this is a cover sketch by Mary Severin. More cover sketches. And then eventually the original art here by Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema's original art, Ross Andrew and Jim Mooney. And then original covers here. So again, this particular book has 512 pages and retails for $49.99. Venom, Epic Collection, Volume 7, The Hunger, of the years 1996 to 1998. Now, if you have Omnibus Volume 2, the stories in there have been collected, or the stories in here have been collected over there. That's mapped a little bit different, though. And I don't know if this is the last Epic Collection before the modern ones, because there were some stories like him appearing in the Spider-Man, Howard Mackie era. So I'm curious to see if there's enough for an actual Volume 8. But this has stories in here by Lynn Kaminsky, but it's mainly Larry Hama, Ivan Velez Jr., and then Ted Hastold and Joe St. Pierre, Josh Hood, Derek Austin. Oh, you have Tom Lyle's art in there. Scott Koblish, Al Milgram doing some of the inks, coloring by Tom Smith, and Steve Oliff, Ken Lopez doing some of the lettering here. So we kick it off with The Hunger. So collected in here is Venom, The Hunger 1 through 4, Venom Tooth and Claw 1 through 3, Venom on Trial 1 through 3, Venom License to Kill 1 through 3, Venom Seed of Darkness, the -1 issue, Venom Sign of the Boss 1 and 2, and Spider-Man, the Venom Agenda 1-shot, and to wrap it up, Venom, the Finale 1 through 3. The book has 512 pages and retails for $49.99. So we kick it off with The Hunger, the very first, the name of this book, and this is by Lynn Kaminsky, and it shows Eddie Brock just trying to relax, watching Taxi Driver at the movie theater, and these people keep making noises, and he turns around, and he's like, shut up, and you talking to me, of course, taken very heavily from Taxi Driver. There's a couple things that happen through here. So, the symbiote just cuts loose, and Eddie has to remind him, and hey, what are you doing? We only kill bad people. What are you trying to do? The symbiote gets him in trouble, like knocking him into a bar and drinking people's beer. And again, tries to kill people. Like no matter what he's eating, it doesn't satisfy this hunger that is living within him. So what happens is, towards the end of the first issue, the symbiote's like, you know what? We don't need you. We can do this without you. And it leaves Eddie completely naked on the street. So now Eddie is alone, separated from his symbiote that has kept him alive for so long. We meet this particular scientist right here that has an obsession with brains. What this comes down to is, again, Eddie trying to reconnect with his symbiote and trying to feed this hunger. Even in the movie Taxi Driver, I don't know if you remember or not, like when De Niro's character is eating things, it's like nothing can satisfy him. Things make him throw up. Things just don't feel right. And there is a fix for that, and you can find out what that fix is when Eddie escapes. Next up is one of the craziest stories in here, but it should be so simple. Tooth and Claw. This is Venom versus Wolverine. But it's so much more than that, because we start off with the character of Dirtnap, who's a talking rat. So if you haven't been reading Wolverine, you're going to be really confused if you're just reading Venom. Why is this talking rat eating Eddie Brock? Oh my gosh, he ate him. And now he's pretending to be him. And who's this Chimera character? And what am I doing at Landman, Lunkman, and Landau, Luckman, and Lake? That's the name of the agency. It's got so many elements from Wolverine that to anybody that reads this is going to be completely lost. And if you haven't been reading Larry Hama's other stories with Venom, it can get a little confusing too. But if you have been, then, you're fine with the story of Scream that's hunting down Phage, and what's going on with the rest of the symbiotes that landed on Earth on a spaceship. So for a story that is just supposed to be Wolverine versus Venom, there's a lot of time travel and intergalactic things that happen in there. This is the Venom on Trial miniseries, which is exactly that. A couple of the agents that we'd seen previously come in, and they arrest Venom and put him on trial. Bastion showing up to remind people, hey, this is part of a bigger universe. This is taking place during Operation Zero Tolerance, and Bastion is questioning this guy if he's a mutant or not. And Eddie Brock's like, no, man, I just have a symbiote. That's it. That's all. I'm not a mutant. Sorry. But what this is they're trying him for killing a police officer. That takes us back to Amazing Spider-Man 300. And yes, Spider-Man does show up in here. And Spider-Man does play a big part through here, and so does Venom. Now, by the ending of this, what ends up happening is that the government and the military ends up recruiting Venom to be like a super spy, to be like the James Bond. So much so that Venom License to Kill has this villain in it named Dr. Yes instead of Dr. No, who's like a Russian villain that's making this mechanical being. So they send Eddie Brock out there to investigate and to put a stop to it, and doing things his own way. The Seeds of Darkness, this is the -1 issue. Interesting that it wasn't like Eddie or Venom didn't have an ongoing series. He just had a bunch of miniseries, so they still did a -1 issue. I love that they did that. This is showcasing another symbiote that may or may not have visited Eddie Brock before the Venom symbiote did. The Sign of the Boss, this is another task that the military puts him in, where he has to pretend to go and be a nun undercover because they think that there's something going on with the church. And this is the fight with Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider shows up during this particular time. The Venom Agenda is a one-shot story that focuses on the fight against Spider-Man and Venom. And it's got beautiful artwork by Tom Lau. I've always been a fan of Tom Lau. He gets recruited for another mission, and that other mission is to go and take care of J. Jonah Jameson. So it leads into a fight with a very sick Spider-Man. So he's not feeling well, and he has to go and take care of Venom. And that leads into the finale, because something happens at the end of the one-shot, the Venom Agenda, that leads into a new status quo for Eddie Brock that is explored here. And the finale, the whole premise of this is to try to separate Eddie from the symbiote. So, are they successful? Well, because you're probably reading it, Venom Comics, you could probably answer that question yourself. In the back, we do have... There are extras in between issues, by the way. This is some Tooth and Claw fan art pages here. And it's the same kind of extras we've seen in the Omni editions as well. Fan art pages. Lots of fan art pages. And Marvel Vision right here, which took over Marvel Age. The Venom Tooth and Claw trade paperback, introduction by Ralph Macchio. And then this amazing poster right here by Alex Horley. So the book has 512 pages, and again, retails for $49.99. I don't know if there's going to be a volume 8, but maybe there's enough material. Maybe they can scrounge up more material to fit in there before we get to the modern era. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Out of this batch, which ones will you be picking up? Which ones you're curious about? Which ones you're hoping will get an omnibus one day, or some kind of big collection, or even an epic collection? Oh my goodness. Just some of these series that just came out in epic collection kind of makes me feel old. Just like that. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.